Hello again from Fired Up. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin, broadcasting from Rigel Studios here in Las Vegas, Nevada. This show is about guns, related politics, and self-defense issues. Fired Up is on my website, Fired Up with Bob Irwin, as well as the American Guns and Glory Network, separately on YouTube and numerous other media. Your local internet provider, if your local internet provider doesn't carry Fired Up, ask them to do that. They can put it on. A new show is posted every Thursday around 5 p.m. Pacific time. Our audio feed is rebroadcast for radio listeners on Saturdays at noon on the Nevada Talk Network. Please check out KELY1230.com for the station in your area of Nevada. If you have questions or comments, send me an email to bob@firedupmail.com. That is bob@firedupmail.com, or leave a message on my office recorder, which is 702-257-1060. Again, that's 702-257-1060. If you don't leave contact information, I can't call you back. There are several hundred defensive uses of firearms each week in the United States, rarely truthfully or fully covered by any mainstream media. I always select a few for each show for my listeners' education. Most are good shootings, some are questionable, and occasionally they're just plain wrong. But all are educational for those of you that keep a defensive firearm in your home or carry one for self-defense in your vehicle or on the street. So, the individual incidents are generally adjudicated under local law. The advice given here might not apply in the area where you live. Advice from a local gun-savvy defense attorney is always recommended. Stories here are often paraphrased for clarity by translation from police jargon, lawyer speak, or regional accents into more standard American English. That comes up a few times every show. Incidents are as reported, but the names of the individuals involved are deleted. The identification of the cops, the lawyers, and media, however, are used. Okay, this first story comes from WLOX TV, reported July 19, 2020 in Biloxi, Mississippi. The Biloxi Police Department received a 911 call just after 1 in the morning from a Biloxi resident who shot an intruder at his home, which is located on Old Bay Road. When police arrived, they found the alleged trespasser in the backyard of the house with a gunshot wound. He was later identified as a local 15-year-old. The investigation is in initial stages, but at the moment, investigators say the deceased did break into the Biloxi residence and the homeowner shot the intruder during a confrontation. Family members of the homeowner immediately called 911 after the incident. No charges have been filed as of this report, and the investigation is ongoing. And if you have any information regarding the incident, the Biloxi Police Department asks that you contact the Biloxi Police Department Criminal Investigation Division at area code 228-435-1662. I use this because it's another 15-year-old violent offender. Over my 50-year career, I've worked on similar cases wherein a child is the offender. These are always really rough on the victims psychologically. The victims always second-guess themselves into blame. Generally, relatives of the deceased file lawsuits against the shooter and spend a lot of public media time blaming the shooter, as you'd expect. They argue the deceased was turning his life around, planning to go back to school, etc. The litigation sometimes goes on for years. And this brought up in my history one rather remarkable incident where the families eventually got together and started an intervention program with at-risk teens presented in local junior and senior high schools. The effort was led by Las Vegas attorney Dominic Gentile, one of my early mentors in this business. Once in a while, some good comes out of a tragedy. In this case, it did, thanks to Mr. Gentile. Next story. The Citrus County Chronicle, a reporter named Buster Thompson, I just love people named Buster, reported July 17, 2020, in Homosassa, Florida, the sheriff's deputies responded to reports of a fight and gunfire at a homestead on the 8800 block of West White Dogwood Drive a few days earlier. Arriving deputies found a shotgun next to an empty shell casing on the floor of the home's open garage. The homeowner and the resident woman identified a 30-year-old male as the assailant. They told deputies the incident stemmed from an earlier argument between the homeowner and this 30-year-old when the couple visited him in Brooksville on family matters. They have some apparent common interests in relatives that wasn't detailed in the article. The homeowner told detectives the 30-year-old later drove to his house in Homosassa and approached him while he was in the garage. The 30-year-old then threatened the resident's life, causing the homeowner to arm himself with a shotgun. The resident said the 30-year-old then lunged at him and the gun fired but did not hit anyone. When they got into a physical fight, according to the arrest report. Deputies documented bruises and swelling on the homeowner's face. On July 15, 2020, Citrus County Sheriff's deputies arrested the 30-year-old, he's from Wesley Chapel, on a charge of burglary with battery. He faces a prison sentence of up to 30 years if convicted of the first-degree felony offense. Court records show the defendant posted bail on July 16th on his $25,000 bond. His arraignment is scheduled for July 27 before Circuit Court Judge Richard Rick Howard. According to the arrest report, he admitted in his statement to deputies to striking the man at least once, but doesn't remember how the fight began or how the shotgun fired. Comments here, this is the old I can't remember what happened defense. The crime scene investigators will put that story together to lead investigators to the actual sequence of events. Defense lawyers always prefer their clients don't make statements about what happened. They generally advise identify yourself, but avoid discussion about what took place. So I guess the I don't remember statement, it will work out in this case. I'm not sure that's a good idea, but I'm sure it made the attorney happy. The next story here, I have to point out, this is a single source story. I generally don't use those if I can't verify it with some other media, but in this case, I just have to. This is from NOLA.com News Reports on July 21, 2020 in Military, Louisiana. Captain Jason Rivardi, spokesman for the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office, said the incident began just before 5:30 in the early morning at a convenience store in the 2100 block of Cleary Avenue. An employee told investigators an individual with a machete approached him while he was outside the store. That individual threatened to kill the employee and then walked into the store. The employee also walked back into the store. The male subject began taking beers and threatened to kill the employee. That's when an unidentified male customer, who was also inside the store at the time, pulled out a concealed handgun and pointed it at the subject with the machete. While the individual was distracted, the employee grabbed the machete and called 911 for help. Then the individual told the employee he'd leave if he got his machete back. The employee handed the machete back and the individual fled the store while dropping his wallet. I couldn't pass this story up, folks. I'm sorry. The machete-wielding suspect was later identified as a local 37-year-old. The sheriff's office arrest report said deputies responded to the scene and were still speaking with the victim when the 37-year-old returned to the business. The deputies tried to detain him, but he resisted being handcuffed. One of the deputies used the taser, and the 37-year-old was taken into custody. He was booked into the Jefferson Parish Correctional Center with aggravated assault and resisting arrest charges. No other information was available of this report about the other customer or whether he had a valid concealed carry permit for his firearm. Bail was set at $1,000, but he was released the same day because of crowding at the jail. So we have an obvious, to me, really deranged individual with a machete who is kicked from custody because the jail's full. Jail overcrowding problems frees a likely mentally ill subject onto the street. We frequently ran into this problem years ago when I was an active deputy sheriff working in the courts. A federal judge ordered the jail population reduced for overcrowding, so judges and cops were told, do not take anyone to jail because we must release a prisoner for everyone that comes in. They had already released all possible low-level offenders, so only serious criminals were left inside. We have similar policies around the country now with the Chinese flu pandemic. We are going to get more people on the street that shouldn't be there because there ain't no place to put them in jail. This is going to be a continuing problem. We're going to address this in more detail later in the show. I'm going to stop here for a brief word from some of our friends and associates. I'll be right back. Freestyle Martial Arts, located at Jones and Russell here in Las Vegas. You can reach them at 702-551-9009. That's 702-551-9009. CCS Gunsmithing. Chris Eifelt, the man who does all the NRA help, he's at 2216 South Rainbow Boulevard near Sahara. He can be reached at 702-365-1732. Once again, 702-365-1732. Jerry Creed, a trust attorney. If you have a firearms trust or need one, this is your guy. You can reach Jerry at 702-806-7777. That is 702-806-7777. CCW Maggie is found all over the internet. You can reach her by phone at 702-375-5900. That's 702-375-5900. All sorts of firearms training, ladies-only classes. She is the best of the best. Call CCW Maggie. This is a reminder to all our listeners. Keystone Corporation, it's a conservative organization that I'm on their board of directors, is having their annual dinner on Tuesday, October 6th, 2020. The featured speaker is Karl Rove. It is at the Venetian Hotel. For information, you can visit online to www.keystonenevada.com and get all the information. Tables are available for groups, and Karl Rove is an amazing commentator. You don't want to miss this. It is going to be the conservative event of the year. Now we have several stories out of Texas. When I do Texas cases, I want to remind listeners they have very pro-gun laws. and policies allowing pursuits to recover property and to capture fleeing criminals. It's kind of left over from the old horse thief rules that you could chase the guy down who stole your horse, and then it got expanded to cars. And basically in Texas, you're within bounds to pursue someone to capture him if he's stolen your property or recover that property. So 12newsnow.com, a reporter named Reagan Gibson, reported July 20, 2020, say that fast 3 times, in Jefferson County, Texas, a 911 call came in around 1 in the afternoon on Monday about a shooting at the Avery Trace Apartments on Highway 365. Officers found a man with a gunshot wound in his lower extremities. Investigators say the man knocked on the woman's door and entered without permission. That's when the police say she shot him. No arrests were made, and the case has been turned over to the Jefferson County District Attorney's Office for review. The intruder is expected to survive his injuries. Now, directly from the Port Arthur Police Department, this is their news release, which says mostly the same thing. On 7/20/20 at approximately 1:05 p.m., the Port Arthur Police Department received a 911 call in reference to a shooting at 4101 Highway 365, the Avery Trace Apartments. Officers arrived and found a male subject at the scene who sustained a gunshot wound to his lower extremities. Investigation revealed that this male subject had approached the apartment while completely nude and knocked on the door. The female occupant opened the apartment door and the male subject walked right in without permission. The occupant of the apartment discharged her weapon, striking the male subject. The male subject's injuries were non-life-threatening, maybe his lifestyle, and he was transported to a local hospital for treatment. No arrests were made, and the case is being turned over to the Jefferson County District Attorney's Office for review. Comments here: it's risky to be a naked intruder in Texas. Obviously, this is a good shooting just about anywhere except San Francisco or New York City. Someone walking in your door without permission can rationally assumed to be a physical threat. Now, in hindsight, it would be helpful to have a peephole, a view from another window, or a camera to verify who's outside. Without a warning given, this may be a dicey case. The intruder was obviously unarmed. That joke will probably be a serious argument in the lawsuit lawyer filing for the wrongful injury case. That argument will be made in spite of the fact the woman was clearly in danger of a sexual assault. I'm afraid we are long past the time where we can open doors without checking to see who's outside. That is a problem here. Story number 5, this is again from Texas. KSAT 12 News, that's an ABC affiliate, reported July 15, 2020 in San Antonio, Texas. Neighbors were relieved to learn that a woman is safe after shooting an abusive ex-boyfriend during an attempted attack. Investigators say the woman had a protective order against the 67-year-old when he showed up unannounced Tuesday and tried to assault her at her home on Shadow Cliff. Police say the ex-boyfriend made entry into the home through a garage door said to be left open by a maintenance worker. The woman apparently backed away into her bedroom. He followed, threatening to kill her before she shot him at least 4 times. Domestic violence victims abuse advocates say the woman took all the crucial steps to prove her case by documenting the alleged abuse before she was forced to take drastic measures. Quoting them, "We always encourage survivors to seek protective orders, to press charges, to tell the truth, and if needed, to seek medical attention," said Patricia Castillo. She's executive director for the PEACE, Peace Initiative, They can be reached if you are interested in helping at their website, www.thepeaceinitiative.net. The investigation continues, but police officials say they do not anticipate to file any charges against the woman who they say is the actual victim in this case. Comments here. Along with the giant spike in crime, domestic abuse has increased dramatically since the COVID-19 lockdowns. There are any number of safe houses available for domestic battery here in Nevada. Just call 311 and ask. Our Democrat governor has again put all businesses on lockdown except ones he favors. Marijuana shops are open, but restaurants and gyms are closed. Once again, due to our ages, my wife and I are under house arrest. The Nevada Secretary of State is trying to allow us to go out to vote, but that apparently is going to remain a controversy for some time. We're in a mess here in Nevada. But, Governor, I have my mask. The crew is in the next room. I don't want to get arrested. This sixth story comes from KOSA TV7, the CBS affiliate in Midland, Texas, reported July 16, 2020. Howard County Sheriff's deputies received a call about 8:45 in the evening of two people being shot. When deputies arrived at the scene, they spoke with a 77-year-old resident who had apparently shot the two suspects. The man told deputies he heard a noise coming from the back of his property. When he went to check it, he found two men removing parts from a vehicle that he owned. The man confronted the suspects at gunpoint and told them to show their hands. The suspects then reportedly rushed the man. The 73-year-old responded by shooting them both. One suspect was treated at a hospital and has now been charged with aggravated robbery. The second was admitted to Lovelock Hospital, where he is listed in critical condition. Comments here. First, if possible, always call 911 and let the professionals look for the bad guys. They have lots of backup and free lawyers. Here we have clearly a property crime that in most jurisdictions would not allow the use of deadly force. Again, I said this is a Texas case, different rules. However, most everywhere when thieves rushed the elderly victim, he was in danger of serious injury, so the shooting itself is valid. The plaintiff lawyer will argue that the resident pointing his firearm was a threat and these trespassers were trying to save their own lives by attacking him, I guess. That is unlikely to work in Texas, but could be a factor in most other jurisdictions. If you find yourself in a similar incident, speak to an attorney before any interviews. Things you say get you in trouble. We're going to break here again for a word from some of our friends and associates. I'll be right back. Attorney Donald J. Green, a common guest of mine on Fired Up. He can be reached at 702-409-8239. He specializes in gun case litigation. He is your man. Don Green, 702-409-8239. And Battlefield Vegas, my new kind of home for this show. They're on Circus Drive, directly behind the Circus Hotel and Casino. You can find them there with CCW classes and an amazing place for gun rentals, everything you could possibly imagine. Check out, if you're in town as a tourist, check out battlefieldvegas.com. A note here before the next story. If you didn't pick up any conservative news broadcasts today, The FBI has announced a new program to identify anarchist street murderers causing all the mayhem in a lot of our major cities. There is now a hotline for that. You may call 1-800-CALL-FBI, 1-800-CALL-FBI, with information on the shooters. You will remain anonymous, and rewards of $25,000 are available to get these jerks off the street. They're killing people left and right, as you know, and this program is directly aimed at those shooters that are murdering children in major cities all across the country. Call the FBI and let them know if you can identify any of the shooters. You will remain anonymous and maybe get $10,000. So it's a good thing to do. Next story comes from Pasadena Now. A reporter named Brian Day reported on July 21st, 2020, a 26-year-old Alhambra man called police about 8 p.m. and reported he had been shot during a robbery in the 700 block of South Euclid Avenue. This is according to Pasadena Police Lieutenant Pete Hederma. I'm sure I butchered that. He told police there was a robbery, but the investigators were looking into the possibility the shooting was connected to another incident in which a resident shot a home intruder in the neighboring city of San Gabriel a short time earlier. Lieutenant Hederma said this victim had been shot in the leg. Working through a Mandarin translator, the wounded man told police he was shot and robbed of his wallet by two masked men. The investigation, however, found no evidence of a shooting or robbery in the neighborhood. Around the same time, police in San Gabriel notified neighboring law enforcement agencies of a suspect on the loose who had been shot by a resident during a home break-in. Detectives were looking into the possibility the man who turned up wounded in Pasadena was the suspect from the San Gabriel burglary. Anyone with information can reach the San Gabriel police anonymously through LA Regional Crime Stoppers. Their number is 800-222-8477. Further details regarding the incident in San Gabriel were not available as of this moment. I just pulled this up this morning. Great work by the Pasadena Police. The computer programs that connect jurisdictions' crime reports serve us well. In many Asian cultures, there is little trust in banks, so families tend to keep valuables at home. I suspect with the language barrier, that might be what's happening in this case. In any event, it certainly worked out. More and more criminals are being caught by smarter and smarter computers. They can work through thousands of criminal incidents in mere seconds and notify detectives of related time. Perhaps it's time for the bad guys to consider new careers, because you are going to go to jail when we find you. How am I doing on time here? 43. Boy, we're right on time. So we're going to chop it off right there. Had one more story from the Chicago Tribune, but we'll save that for the next time. Going through, there we go. Check out our recent shows at, my prompter is going nuts, so my eyeballs are going up and down. Check out my recent shows at firedupwithboberwin.com. It contains several dozen episodes. Please patronize our friends and supporters. I'll be back next Thursday on my website, firedupwithboberwin.com. Also on the American Guns and Glory Network, numerous other websites, television, and radio stations. When watching any media, just click on subscribe and new shows will be sent to your phone or computer automatically. My logo merchandise, hats, shirts, and books are available at Battlefield Vegas, just behind Circus Circus on the Las Vegas Strip. If you are ever in Las Vegas, Battlefield is a must-see attraction. You can shoot a minigun or any of hundreds of firearms and even crush a car with an Abrams tank at their outdoor facility. Transportation is provided. Lots of stuff. You can contact info@battlefieldvegas.com. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back next Thursday with another edition of Fired Up. Thank you.